What would make you want to donate your sperm? For Mitch Kennedy, it was a pop-up ad he saw on a university computer when he was an undergraduate in biomedical science. The ad simply said, "Could you be a superhero?" The university was attached to a hospital with a fertility clinic. Later in life, Mitch went on to have a son of his own, but back then, at 18, he'd imagined he was heading for a childless bohemian adulthood, travelling the world without ever having a family. So the idea of donating sperm appealed to him as a way of passing on his genes without having any responsibility for actually parenting someone. The process took a couple of years because initially his sperm didn't respond well to freezing, but when the technology evolved, Mitch's samples were made available to recipients. And they still are.
There's this misconception that the donors at a clinic are just they're all these medical students who are, great looking and do all these sports and stuff. But the reality is that most of the time you probably wouldn't choose the donor if you'd physically met them. And that's one of the things that the clinics take advantage of because you're not physically seeing these people. It's all based on trust. So if I said, they never measure me even. So if I'd said, yeah, I'm 6'6", I've got this colour hair, this colour of eyes, they don't check it. Do you have any history of mental health issues in your family? You could just tick the box that said no. People assume that the clinic will have had access to your notes, but they don't. Yeah, so I had to create this profile, give a little bit of information about myself. And
what kind of thing did you put?
So it was hard because I didn't want to identify myself because the guidance was don't do anything, don't say anything that's going to be too identifying. But it just seems so natural. You'd want to see a photograph of the person. You're gonna.
Do they not see a photo?
No, definitely not. No,
really?
Because that's totally identifying. And you're not supposed to be able to identify the donor until the child is 18.
Wow.
You can get non-identifying information about the donor when the child is 16. Oh, well, the recipients never get these rights. It's only the donor-conceived person.
Right, okay.
But
I guess that kind of makes sense, but it's
just a strange way. It's what
it doesn't
we accept.
mimic anything to do with natural conception.
No,
does
totally.
It? Yeah.
And you're conceiving with someone. You know just the most scant of information. What kind of music they like, some basic characteristics of theirs. Anyone who's ever done internet dating would know that even when you see the photographs, when you meet the person, you can be extremely surprised at what they're like. I mean, I'm actually on Tinder just now, and I would always speak to a girl on the phone before we met up. I think you can tell a lot by, hearing someone's voice. You can definitely get much more sense of their personality compared to, just words on a screen and even photographs. But take away the photographs, you've really got no idea what you're dealing with. Because everyone tends to be quite positive when they think about what the donor looks like. So they read a little description and they're picturing George Clooney, but the reality is completely different.
But it has basic information. It has ethnicity, eye colour, that kind of thing.
Yeah, based on what the donor says.
Yeah.
So you fill in a great big form for the HFEA, the Human Fertility and Embryology Authority, which is the body that governs clinics in the UK. And there's a section, I think, do you have a message for the recipient family? And I thought, oh my God, what the hell do you write here? I hope you're good parents, look after this kid or I'll come and... No, I mean, like, what do you say? So I Googled it. And I was like, well, what do people say on these kind of forums?
It's like a best man speech.
yeah, exactly. When I Googled what to write in an HFEA form, I came across all these sites that were literally connecting donor to recipient directly without the clinic involved. And that was extremely shocking and extremely exciting as well, because I thought, hold on, maybe I've been going about this the wrong way. Because, in society, if you're going to get a sperm donor, you do it through a clinic. It's a no-brainer.
What did you know at the time about private donation?
I didn't even know it existed at all.
So when you saw those websites, did you even think maybe this isn't even legal?
I just hadn't, there was loads of things going through my head. I thought, it's probably not legal, but it was very exciting. I did hundreds and hundreds of hours of reading and research, just trying to find out about it, because it was like whenever I answered one question, that answer would then lead to another 10 questions. I could physically choose the people I was going to donate to, which felt really strange. So, I kept on with the process through the clinic. I filled in my form. I some text for the child when they reach 18. Essentially, this is some. So what happens? I think they would contact the HFEA, if they get told that they're donor conceived, because there's nothing. The clinic can't force the parent to tell the child, even though it's strongly advised. Actually, and the clinics used to recommend don't tell, because it'll mess them up. Now the reality is that is terrible advice, because the child is going to find out. It might be a blood test, it might be a family illness or something. They are going to find out, and they are going to feel extremely betrayed that they've been lied to their whole lives. Whereas actually people deal with the truth very well. The child would contact the HFEA when they get to 18, and they would get this information, the non-identifying paragraph, the profile, and maybe so when they're 18, they would get the paragraph of text that I'd written. So in my paragraph, I remember saying, I'm totally happy for you to contact me, wherever I am in the world. My life has changed a lot since I filled in that initial paperwork. In my head, I was going to be out traveling and things, but I think I was probably quite soppy, to be honest. Maybe saying that, I hope you've had a really good life. I hope that you've got a good relationship with your parents. And if you're ever interested in your biological family, I'm totally there for you. I will keep this telephone number. I've had my mobile number since 95 when I first got my phone. So yeah, I still went through the process and started donating to the clinic. But there was this kind of this thing that was a secret from the clinic, because I had actually asked the clinic about it. So do you know about this private? And they said, oh no, don't do that. It's a bad idea, and again, not really going into any reason why it was a bad idea, but it was just, and I think it was because of ignorance. The clinic knew their part. They knew the law surrounding their bit, but they didn't know about the bigger picture. So they just didn't know about it. I was actually very close to setting up the profile on one of these websites straight away. But then I became acutely aware that as soon as I did that, I could start getting requests, and I was not ready. I did not know my stuff.
So when you say one of these websites, so it's not a case of you setting up your own website.
Oh, no.
You're not a startup business in this.
No.
You go through, there are still intermediaries, but what is it like Rightmove for property, basically? Is
Pretty
it that
much.
for sperm?
Yeah. The website where I get most of my recipients is called Pride Angel. It's run by a British lesbian couple. They've actually got a daughter who is donor conceived privately, and they essentially just wanted to help people do what they did. So their website is run not for profit. There are websites which are run totally for profit, and you have to pay huge subscriptions every month. Well, I say huge, but £30 a month. So with Pride Angel, though, donors can be on there totally for free, and you essentially, the recipients would send you messages. So I think you can buy maybe, I think, say 50 messages for £50 or something, and then you can send messages to donors.
And once you'd uploaded and the first message came through, what did it say?
Absolutely shit myself. It was so scary right at the start, and this is why I'm so conscious of how scared the recipients probably are, because I remember how scared I was. I was absolutely terrified.
What was it?
They're pretty much, there's not much variation with the messages. It just tends to be, hi, we really like your profile.
And your profile had a photo?
Yeah.
And you said a lot more about yourself,
didn't you? Yeah. I knew right from the start, I known that the more open you are, the better. And of course, that's with anything, with trust. When I get a message, say on Facebook, from a profile that has no photograph, or it's got a photograph of a flower, I don't trust no flower. Seeing someone's face, getting to know details about them, in terms of the donor conceived person and the recipients, they want to know you're not going to disappear. I heard a story about a guy who would donate in London. Essentially, he would tell the recipient, leave your back door unlocked, I'll pop in, leave the donation on the side, and then once I'm out of the house, you can come downstairs and collect it.
How bizarre.
I don't know how unattractive this guy was that he felt he'd have to do this, or if he was just paranoid about his identity. Because lots of people are paranoid about the child support agency or the child maintenance service they are now. But, I'd done my research. I knew what the law was. And that was a big chunk of the research, was the legal implications of what I was going to be doing. The key is the birth certificate. If you're named on a birth certificate, you have parental rights.
And if you'd just got a girl pregnant on a night out and then had nothing to do with her, she could name you on the birth certificate, and that's why
But
you
no,
would be...
she can't name you on the birth certificate because you'd have to physically go along to register the birth
Okay.
and consent. But she could go to the CMS, the Child Maintenance Service, and they don't really care about birth certificates so much. Well, they do, but in that example, yeah, if you get somebody pregnant on a night out, they would just say, well, are you the father? And you do a paternity test,
Right.
and obviously you'd have to start paying. But if you're donating privately, through one of these websites, someone's contacted you, you think they look good, they seem nice, and if they're a single person, then it's essentially the same as getting somebody pregnant on a night out. That's why trust is so important. But if I donate to a heterosexual couple, then obviously the male is going to go on the birth certificate. Now, as a woman, you can take any man, the guy on the street outside, in to register the birth. Maybe she got pregnant on a night out, and then she puts her current partner on the birth certificate. That's totally legal. Now, a court can obviously change any of these things. Actually, it's not a very well-known fact, but you can put a male on a blank birth certificate. So a birth certificate that doesn't have a male listed, you can put him on anytime. So even when the child's, say, 16 years old, if the biological father turned up, or even somebody else, to be honest, and was willing to sign their birth certificate, he can be added on. But with a lesbian couple, there's a particular act, it's called the HFEA Act 2008, and it was enacted in 2009. Now, it specifies that for both women to be listed on the birth certificate, there's 3 conditions have to be met. The couple have to have been civil partnered or married before conception. So the registrar would essentially look at the date of birth and then do a quick calculation. That's what they're supposed to do, a quick calculation to work out when the child was conceived, and it should be after that they were married or civil partnered. The second condition is that the non-birth parent consents. Now, I get that consent in writing, but also the consent is showing that she's physically going along to the registry office and she's signing as a second parent. And then the third condition is a harder one to prove, but the third condition is that there was no sex. So it had to be artificial insemination. Mm-hmm. So if those 3 conditions are met, then both women can go on the birth certificate, and that gives them full and equal legal rights, and totally extinguishes my legal rights as the donor, and responsibilities.
So obviously having these messages is part of a way of clearing all of that up. You're saying along the way, you're answering questions about your interest in the music that you like and whatever, but you're also saying, this is how it's going to work. I need you to be in a civil partnership. The other mother needs to claim parental responsibility on the birth certificate. You're discussing all that, are you?
Yeah. So I've got a list of 21 questions that I would send out. The process used to be a lot longer before because it wasn't such a smooth operation at all. Because, like I said, behind the scenes, I was absolutely shitting myself. So it'd be lots of emails backwards and forwards, me trying to scratch in my head thinking, well, what else should I ask? What else do I need to know? Oh, are they smokers? Okay, no, I don't want to donate to smokers, so I need to ask them if they're smokers, and then that'd be like another bit of conversation and things. But now it's much smoother because I would literally just send this list of 21 questions, and it covers, what are their full names, their ages, how long they've been together, their marital status, or their plans for the future, their residential status, are they living in rented accommodation, what do they do for work.
And none of these questions are questions you'd be able to ask if you're using a traditional clinic.
Oh, no way, no.
I mean, you don't get to talk to them.
I don't even know who they are or anything. So literally, I donate to the sperm to the clinic, and then
the question,
clinic
are you
decides.
a smoker? I mean, that's okay, I guess you're thinking maybe, well, they might die of lung cancer prematurely and leave my child behind.
Yeah,
but also you're making an ethical judgment. And the reason that the clinics don't allow donators...
The smokers listening are going to be like, this guy's a total asshole.
The reason they don't allow donators to ask those kinds of questions is because they want it to be completely... It shouldn't be about what political party they vote for or what their beliefs are.
That's a good question. I should totally add that in.
What political party do you vote for?
I'm joking. That would be that'd be too far. But
it wouldn't be, because once you start on the road of are you a smoker, it is reasonable to say. And also, by the way, I don't want anyone really right wing or really left wing.
For me, it's about finding the best parents I can for these kids. These are the parents that I would choose. People will judge me for this, but one of the questions is, are you a healthy weight? Because if you're obese, it's just going to have a huge implication for your health. If I could give these kids genetics which mean that they aren't going to constantly be having to be dieting and worrying about their weight. And because it is genetic.
What are the meetings like?
Most of the time, to be honest, the first meeting is actually the first donation, because they're a long way away. It just makes more sense practically to meet up at that first donation. So we tend to do things on Skype.
So by the time you meet face to face, you've already basically consented to it.
This is a done deal.
Okay, so this is a delicate question, but who have you rejected?
To be honest, where people tend to get rejected are the answers to the questions and the photographs. And I think you can tell so much. I think this is why it's so strange to get a donor who's not, you can't see his face, but I think you can tell so much from, say, like 5 photographs of a couple. And that's where I've maybe thought, nah, these people are not for me. I mean, I get 10, 15 requests a week.
What?
And I'm only accepting 3 couples per year, pretty much. I'm only donating to about having 3 successes per year. So it's a huge, I mean, what is it? I've not done the calculation, but it's less than 1%, say.
So how do you reject the 99%? How do you tell them? You just say, I'm really sorry, but actually I don't think this is for me. What do you say?
I'm giving away my trade secrets now, but I would just say that I just don't feel we're a match. And then I would lead on to, like, have you tried this website? Have you tried looking in this Facebook group or whatever? Where I'm getting my recipients from, these tend to be slightly smarter, a bit classier kind of people. Whereas the Facebook groups, now this is a generalization, of course, but the Facebook groups tend to be not so educated. I mean, it was only the last couple of years I found out about the Facebook groups, and they are like the Wild West. It's shocking, the stuff that goes on these groups.
If you think it's shocking and it's not classy, why are you on them?
So I'm on the Facebook groups essentially to provide guidance, information to people, because there's a lot of bad practice going on the groups. So maybe donors donating anonymously. There's nothing to stop it if you're private. They're pretty much to try and be a little bit of it sounds big-headed, but a little bit of a role model for the donors. And I mean, I haven't ruled out that I'd find a recipient on Facebook. It just hasn't happened yet. For example, the biggest group in the UK is called the Free Sperm Donors UK, with exclamation marks at the end. So literally, women will go on there and say, right, we need a donor. We're in this area. And anyone with a Facebook profile can be a member of that group and say, oh, I'll donate to you. It's just far too fast in lots of ways, and some of the stuff that goes on in there is just shocking, and the way people talk to each other and things. So that was quite a new part of donating, because until then it had been, these very polished websites. Like Pride Angel is so polished, and everyone's got a nice profile, and it's just a very different experience.
Do you think it should be legal, those Facebook groups?
I think it would be an impossible thing to make illegal, because you can't stop. It's the same as if the government said, we're going to make one-night stands illegal, guys. It would just be so hard. You cannot stop someone physically finding someone, asking them to give them sperm, and then that transaction happening. It's whether you'd like to make it illegal or not, it's not possible.
You can stop the payment for it though, right?
See, people say that it's illegal to sell sperm, but I mean, the clinic won't pay you for the sperm. They're paying you for the expenses. And right now the rate, a clinic in the UK, is £35 per visit. So if you, maybe over a course of a donation cycle, you might have maybe 10, 11, 12 donations. So £35 per visit. It's not too bad, but it's not a life-changing amount of money. But the act itself is life-changing, especially down the line. But yeah, I've heard of a guy in London who was charging £5,000 per child. So he was doing this very financially.
And is that legal in this country?
There's nothing to stop it, really. Yeah.
But you don't get paid?
No, I don't get paid. So I don't charge my recipients anything. So there was a couple were up in Aberdeen last weekend, and all they would have paid for was the fuel for their car and their hotel. So compared to maybe buying sperm, because the options that a recipient has, essentially, so you've got all the ones that people would know about. So, why don't you just go and have a one-night stand? Hold on, I'm a married woman. I'm in love with my partner. I'm not going to go and do that. So that's one option. Ask a friend, which is risky, because what if your friend, he's not a donor, his head's in a different place. So he essentially, what if he falls in love with a child? What if he wants to be a bit of a role? And you do hear these cases where someone's asked a friend, and somebody, say a gay male, for example, seems to be quite a common situation.
Gay couples helping each other.
Yeah, and then he realises, oh my God, actually, as a gay male, this is going to be hard for me to have my own child. And it dawns on him this is his biological child and he wants to be a bit more involved. So maybe they've talked about, oh, you'll be like an uncle. But an uncle role to one person is very different to another person. And then they have this big legal case because their expectations were totally different. So that's another possibility. And that can work in certain situations. Or co-parenting among three people. In the UK, a child always has, well, there's a few exceptions, but it generally always has two legal parents, even if there's no one named on the birth certificate. You know, the court will say that the paternal father. But in California, a child can have several parents, several legal parents, and they have these complicated agreements where you might have two men and two women coming together to co-parent these children. But yeah, in the UK, it's just the two parents. I would say any advice to anyone who's interested in getting a donor or being a donor would be, you need to think through what you want and also have it written on paper. So my legal agreements that I have with my recipients, they're not really worth anything because legally we're already covered in statute. Well, that's why it's not illegal to sell sperm, because there's no statute law that says I could sell you a pint of blood if you know, I could take it out and give you, like, I don't know what you're going to do with that, maybe you're a vampire, but there's nothing in the statute that says it's illegal, and it's the same with sperm. But we are covered if I donate to a lesbian couple and they meet those three conditions, you know, married, civil partnered, AI, and the non-birth parent consents.
Okay, but you're putting in so much time. You know, you are drafting legal agreements, you spent hundreds of hours on the internet, you're sort of self-policing these Facebook groups. Why would it not be reasonable to charge?
If you wanted to charge, you could charge.
But why don't you want to charge?
Well,
because if the answer is because you're trying to help people, yes, but you're giving up so much of your time that actually you're not a charity.
Yeah, but
why not be paid for your time reasonably?
My logic is that everything I've done in relation to my sperm donation is about what's best for the child. And could you imagine, so you've asked your parents, okay, so how was I conceived? I've grown up knowing I've got a donor out there. How did you find the guy? A common question, I think, would be, so did you pay him? And imagine if the answer comes back, yeah, we gave him £500 in a brown bag. I mean, you've instantly got an idea of what your biological father is. Like, he's not doing this to help your parents. This is just a money-making scheme for him. And it doesn't matter that maybe he's wealthy and he's lost 3 days' work by donating so that money was to cover that. Who cares? All you would see is that your biological father is an opportunist who's just taking advantage of this situation, taking advantage of someone who needs some sperm. Whereas my conscience is clear in that respect, in that, you know, they asked, did you pay this guy, Mitch? No, we didn't pay him a penny. We literally, you know, we maybe paid his flight to come and visit us, you know, and we bought him some food that night, and that's it.
Still to come, Mitch talks logistics, speculums, sandwich boxes, and the friends who lend a helping hand. Plus, an update. How many kids has he fathered now? That's when the Modern Man playback returns. After this.
I've totally thrown myself into the donating because for me it was very important. I don't just want to donate locally. I want to find the very best recipients I can wherever they are. So if they're in the south of Devon, I'm going there. That's fine. If this is like the great couple.
I mean, it's also, I suppose, if you do just do it locally, opening your children up to the possibility they might end up in relationships with each other if there's dozens of them.
That leads on to, a huge misconception is that, oh, you're a sperm donor, you got loads of kids, they're all going to interbreed.
Well, no, I'm not saying that.
No.
That strikes me as unlikely. But if they were all in the same city, then it is quite possible, isn't it?
A lot of people, and a lot of people do think that. Actually, it's more likely with a clinic. A clinic will cover that city or, you know, a predefined geographic area, because that's how the NHS works. They're clinical commissioning or groups and things. But they have a limit of 10. So, but imagine you could think potentially 20 to 30, I think would be quite a typical, 2.4 children, a typical number, 20 to 30 people in that city. And a lot of them might not know they're donor conceived. There could be heterosexual couples, single women, lesbian couples. But with my donating, when it's private, all these children know. So, for example, almost all of my recipients are lesbian couples. I just think if I was choosing, the recipient, the perfect recipient, it's a lesbian couple.
Why?
I just found that when I'd spoken to heterosexual couples, there was a dark dynamic that wasn't present with a lesbian couple. It was almost like the guy would tend to take a bit of a lead on organising things, to be a bit more involved. But you could just totally tell that he didn't really want to be doing this. This is not how he would want to conceive his family. But he's either had a vasectomy or, he's infertile. Whereas with a lesbian couple, they don't have that. There's no negativity built in. There's no dark cloud. They're both women. They've always known that they would need a donor to conceive. Well, one of my couples, they conceived at home, alone in bed together. It worked first time, like most of my recipients do. It tends to either work first, second, or third time because the biomedical knowledge is spot on. We're doing what's going to work best. But, that sense that she made her partner, her wife, pregnant. There was she wasn't just holding her hand during some procedure at a clinic. She did it herself, and that is just, that gives her the satisfaction. Whereas if a man was inseminating his wife, yeah, he's got her pregnant, but he's using someone else's sperm. And I think there's that underlying
emasculation.
Yeah, I think it was just a hard situation to. Well, they were never very chatty, and I felt that the woman was often holding back. It just didn't feel so natural. And then I have donated to single women, but those single women are exceptional. Those are exceptional women because I early on found that I don't think it's an ideal situation to only have one parent. Yeah, if you got one parent, great, raised by a single mum or single father, that's great, but it's not what you would choose. No one would choose that, surely. Why would you not want two parents?
Talk me through the practical application then. How does the insemination happen?
So essentially, the couple have been taking their folic acid, they're monitoring their ovulation, they're using pee sticks, so ovulation tests, which detect LH so luteinizing hormone in the urine. So if they said, right, okay, we're aiming for the 15th of the month, I'm thinking, right, around about the 12th, I need to stop having sex because I want to give them like a decent donation. So maybe say on the morning of the 15th or the 16th, they get their LH surge in their morning pee. So in a lot of the tests, the digital ones, it'll come up a solid smiley face. They would pretty much get in touch and say, right, we've found some flights. Can you make it? And it's a case of me literally just, heading to the airport or whatever and heading down. Now, some donors, they would only be donating within the city they're in. But for me, it was about finding the best recipients, and they tend to be distance is quite a big thing. So I essentially go to them. I would tend to, because I've got to know them over the phone and things, and we've spoken on Skype, I would tend to stay with them in their house. It saves them money, and it's just kind of getting to see where they live. We eat together. I'll stay in the spare room or whatever, which tends to then become the baby room, ironically. So say if maybe they got their LH surge that morning, I'd aim to donate to them probably that night. So we know, this is a fact, that when someone gets their LH surge, their egg is going to release within 24 to 36 hours. They might ovulate overnight, so it's not going to get detected until the urine in the morning. But we're always thinking about that. And the egg has to be fertilized within 0.6 days of it being released. So that's what we're aiming for. But I do a donation that night when I arrive at their house, and then a donation again in the morning before I maybe fly back.
So two, always two.
Sometimes it's three, sometimes it's only just the one.
And into what? What
container
do you use?
So I use, my first donation, and it worked first time, and that was in Aberdeen, and that was a sandwich box. So they handed me this sandwich box, and I was like, right guys, I'm not going to fill this, you do know. Back in those days, I actually used to take a witness. So I had a friend who was a nurse. She'd come along, not to witness me masturbating, but to witness that there was no sexual contact, because I was concerned, well, how do I prove that there's no sexual contact? It was total overkill. I don't do that anymore. It was pretty nerve-wracking. But, essentially, there's no rush. The couple, they're just doing their thing. You're just in the bathroom or whatever with your sandwich box. So people used to bring their own stuff, and I just found that they would either forget it or they would bring absolute crap. Like somebody gives me like a baby, like, oh, we forgot our stuff, so here's a baby food jar that we've emptied out. And I was like, no, it's glass, which is a bit too conductive. It doesn't insulate the sperm so well. So then I started buying in bulk. So I'd buy 300 kits at a time. So that's a 60 ml Sterilin pot. So it's a sterile pot that you use in a lab with a white cap. That's what the NHS use as well. And so I ejaculate into that, literally just covering the bottom. and then I'd pass it to the recipient. Now, they've already got kit from me, so a speculum, so you turn the thumb wheel, and it opens it up, and it allows you to physically, the partner, to see the cervix. So then she puts a tube, like a long sterile tube in a plastic packet, on the end of a syringe, which is obviously sterile as well, and then she puts the tube into this sample, takes out a mil, maybe so half the tube. She puts the lid back on the pot so that it's, because we don't want it to dry out.
Is it penis shaped?
No.
Because I'd imagine biologically that's the best delivery mechanic, is something in that exact shape and size. No?
You're a purist. No, it's. I mean, women listening to this will know that exactly what a speculum's like because they've had a smear test. Mm-hmm. But it's essentially, it's very much like a duckbill. It goes in and then it opens up. So it looks like a duck quacking with its mouth really wide open.
But you saying about them taking their time and everything, is the advice still basically this is best delivered in a sexually satisfying situation, essentially, rather than a kind of medical procedure? Or does it, in reality, does it not make a difference?
I think a lot of couples think that it's going to be quite almost romantic when they conceive their child, but the reality is that it's not. I've actually heard couples killing themselves laughing. So I'm in their home and I can hear them in the bedroom upstairs or whatever, and they're killing themselves laughing. Maybe because she's got some sperm on her hand. Imagine the scene. Her pelvis is propped up on pillows on the bed. She's got a speculum inside her. She's holding the speculum in. The best tip I say there is she puts the speculum in herself and then the partner opens it up. For some reason, a lot of people have told me that advice. It works really well. Her partner has got her headlight torch on her forehead. So it's like those old-fashioned doctors, or like a miner. So one of my recipients, they coined the expression, and I tell everyone now, she calls her partner her vagina miner. And it's just so apt. But it is that sense of satisfaction. But it's not a very sexy situation. But the headlight torch allows you to be hands-free, to not have to be using your iPhone torch to try and see into the vagina. So yeah, there's an opening at the back of the speculum, like a big hole, and you literally allows you access so you can physically see the cervix. The tube goes in, they place that, say 1 mil right into the little hole. It's not going through the hole. Wait 5 minutes, then take the speculum out, wait another 5-10 minutes, and that's just to give the sperm in that mil a chance to get through. It's like an airport turnstile. You throw 1,000 people at the turnstile, but it's a set rate how many can get through. Whereas if you're smart, you'd keep it in groups of 100, send them, and then you're getting more likely people are going to get through. It's going to be spread out. And they do another mil and another mil until there's nothing left in the pot.
How many of your pregnancies were brought to term?
I tend to count it in terms of family because that's what the HFEA does. So there's 23 families. 3 of those have twins. 4 of those are onto their second child. So we're talking...
Do you not know the number? You don't, do you? You don't know how many children you've fathered?
I did know the number at one point, but I mean, we're talking...
So it's more than 30?
It's more than 30, yeah.
But you don't know the number?
No, it's about mid-30s, I think.
Wow.
And there's 5 pregnancies ongoing just now. Just because I do very much think of the families rather than the actual individual children.
Sure. So hopefully if those pregnancies go to term and you've got your own son as well, that's actually 40, isn't it?
Yeah, and...
That's a lot.
I mean, I'm not very numbers based. This is not an ego thing for me. If it was, I could have had thousands of children by now.
Is there a limit though where you think actually that is too much?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to be within the next year. I'm going to not be taking on any new recipients, and then it'll just be focusing on the people who've already agreed to help. To be honest, I'm so picky now about who I'm donating to that, in realistic terms, the number's not going to increase much. But there's people who have agreed to help. I will always be available to them, and also there are my existing families. Even in 10 years' time, if they said, "Oh, we'd like a 4th child or something,"
so it could plausibly get to 70, let's say.
If I had to guess a number, it's probably going to get to something maybe like 55, 60, something like that.
And you mentioned that you're on Tinder at the moment. What do your prospective dates make of this?
They tend to be really positive or really negative, and it's quite a good acid test. I would tend to tell...
Is your first date's always basically going through all the questions we've just gone through for the last
Pretty
hour?
much, yeah. Although I might keep it for a second date, just because it's...
Things are getting serious now, so you should know. If we have children, there may be 60 half-brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Actually, my previous relationship, we were together a year. she admitted that she wouldn't have dated me if she'd known about my son or the donating before she'd actually got to know me a little bit.
And how do your partners respond when you say, sorry, love, I can't spend the weekend with you. I'm going down to Brighton to, masturbate into a sandwich box because I need to help this couple?
Have you heard some of my conversations? I've pretty much said that. I think because they know it, I'm passionate about it, then they tend to get behind it, or at least pretend to. But it's never really been that much of an effect because in my life anyway, I tend to do it. It tends to be more during the week. And that's when I'm free. So I pretty much, I've set up my life so I'm working at the weekend. I don't earn a huge amount of money, but it allows me to be free to donate during the week.
What do you do, by the way?
I mean, I do a bit of modelling, acting, random kind of jobs. Most of my income is from dancing. Mm-hmm. Actually, I've even done exotic dancing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've been a male stripper. Actually, recently that's been most of my income. So, yeah, very random. And that's another negative that women don't want to date a male stripper. It doesn't give me much money, but it means that I'm not working much. It's pretty much Saturday night. And then I'm able to travel. So it doesn't tend to affect them that much. The bigger effect is when you're sleeping with your girlfriend or whatever and you can't finish because you're saving it up for someone else. But I became a master, and this is a bit of a bonus, a master at kind of like holding off. So like going through the motions, but then stopping right before I'm away to come.
Mm. But that, for her,
and to be honest, that should probably be quite a good skill for most men.
Sure.
Really, I mean, like...
But for her, that is a bit of a mindfuck, isn't it?
Well, no.
I'm not saying it's not pleasurable. I'm saying it's just knowing that your boyfriend isn't ejaculating in or near you because
she still can,
someone
though.
Else. She still can.
She can still finish, but no, I don't think that's so much of a mindfuck. Something that, to be honest, is a little bit unusual is that, so I would maybe take a partner with me to donate. So essentially, I'm having sex with her, but I pull out and ejaculate into the pot. Mm-hmm. Now, this is with the consent of the couple. Obviously, they know what's going on. Mm. So I used to tease with my ex that, because there was this little girl conceived, that was pretty much in a way her baby, because it's not often that you can sleep with a guy and someone else gets pregnant. Yeah. But that's what had happened. And, maybe I've taken a few friends with benefits to do that. Well, actually, the most recent girl, she actually really liked it. She thought it was really fun, that very random, because essentially she'd gone into a stranger's house, gone into their bathroom, had sex with me. Now, that donation didn't work. But she said, yeah, like, Mitch, you're so random. Your life is so random.
When the babies are born, how do you find out? Do you get a text?
Yeah.
Do you get a call?
Like WhatsApp. So I've got a WhatsApp group with pretty much all my recipients. I've got most of them on Facebook. So I'll just maybe check out my Facebook and I'll see, oh, there's that little boy, and oh God, he looks big. So I'll share photographs of me and my son. They'll share photographs of their child. So yeah, on the day, I tend to know when it's happening. So we've spoken in advance. I'd know the gender. They go for a gender scan. They would tell me. They'd send scan photographs often. They don't have to. I say it's all up to them. It's just amazing to get that photographs of this little person that, and they'll tell you the name, and you think, oh my God, that's an interesting name. No, I'm joking. If any of my recipients are listening, no, the names you've chosen for your children are excellent. But, so I'll get the birth weight and what time they were born, and it's just an amazing experience. It's unlike anything else. I mean, how often can an average guy on the street get an opportunity to do something so life-changing? I mean, I'm not a world-renowned surgeon or, a helicopter pilot that's plucking people out the sea or something. I'm just a Joe Blogs on the street, and I'm doing something regularly which is literally making people's dreams come true. It'd almost be like being the guy that delivers the Camelot checks, maybe. I mean, that must be such a great job. Like, or when they call to confirm, telling them, like, yes, you're a winner. I mean, how amazing would that be? Just seeing joy from people. And as a parent, I know just how amazing it is to be a parent. It's the best job in the world. And I can't believe that I didn't want to be a parent.
Have you thought about what might happen if in not 18 years' time where they might want to get in touch with you, but in 7 years' time where one of your little boys is having a problem and the mums think, you know what, he needs a male role model to speak to. Shall we call Mitch?
One of my questions is, in my original 21 questions, is talking about, Real Model Support Network, other kids in the family and stuff. But I would probably be open to any request that a recipient comes to me with. I mean, I've been asked the other week, I got a message on WhatsApp saying, oh, our little boy, he said, like, I'm really good at football. Is Mitch good at football? And I said, no, like, I'm not at all. Like, you know, it's just my brother is, my dad is, but me, no. You know, so they can ask questions to their parents. So if the parents contact me with anything, it could be that I'm even younger than 18, so it might be like 14, that they say, well, actually, our kid's really grown up. They've got their head on their shoulders firmly.
And they want to meet you.
Like I was, yeah, when I was that age. My son even, he's very grown up in lots of ways. Yeah, and if they said, oh, he's 14, we think it'd be good, I would totally consider that. And I guess I'm just going to follow the children's lead. So if they want, you know, like a distant friend, a Facebook friend from me, then yeah, I could do that. If they wanted more of a little bit like a closer friend, but I'd imagine the relationship is going to be like a friendship. I'm not their parent.
And what if they want money? I mean, that is something that people will say, is what if one of them, you know, has an illness or desperately gets in trouble and you're someone they can ask? You don't have a legal obligation to.
No, I don't have a legal obligation to. I think it would be I can't imagine it unless we had some kind of relationship, you know, or I'd come into money. I mean, if you knew that your donor had 60, say, biological children, I can't imagine you would think. There's an out queer as folk, I suppose. It's hard to preempt these things. That's one of the hardest things about becoming a donor at the start, was thinking, well, this is how I feel now. How am I going to feel in 20 years' time, 30 years' time? And these are impossible questions, because my life has changed a lot since then. I became a father, and that actually pushed me more into the donating. But these are such big questions, such a big deal. And it's literally life-changing, you know, the creation of a person. It boggles my mind sometimes. I mean, even just the practicalities. I hand over a liquid and a person is created. It seems alien to me. It doesn't make any sense. But it's so satisfying. I love it.
Mitch Kennedy. Well, now we can see what he thinks about it now, 7 years later, because he sent me this voice memo.
Hey Ollie, nice to hear from you. Hope you're well. My donating is going really well. It slowed right down, but I'm still available for couples and singles I really connect with. To update on numbers, I've helped create almost 70 families across the world, from here in Scotland to the Philippines. I've had 4 sets of twins, and some of my families have now had 3 kids from me. The eldest donor children are now 12. Time is flying, so I'm really excited about the friendships of the future and very open to these possibilities. I've had another son myself, so family life with my 2 boys is definitely keeping me really busy. I'm still keenly advocating for the rights of the donor-conceived person. Many people are so focused on having a baby, they don't really give much consideration to how the donor-conceived person will feel. It's why anonymous donating can be so harmful. So there we have it. My final word is on the rights of the donor-conceived person.
Thanks, Mitch, and congratulations on your son as well. That's it from us. If there's an interview from the Modern Man Archive you'd like to hear again, you can request it via the feedback form on our website, modernman.co.uk, and click feedback. And while you're there, why not be like Mitch? I mean, don't send us sperm, but you can donate to the show. Money. We are an independent podcast. We are funded by listeners like you. Just click Beer Money. Until next time, I've been Ollie Mann, the producer Matt Hill, and we'll see you with something new on the 10th of April.